if you could know a lot about your kid's moon sign, that's such a
Yeah.
gift to them because that's how they need to be loved and nurtured and what they're watching in you because they're learning how to do their moon sign by the mom.
This is Reclaim Your Magic. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Jess Phillips, and my guest today is Tara Vogel. She is an astrologer focused on helping parents read and understand their child's natal chart to help them become better parents. This is an episode that I'm really excited about because as a mother of 3 children, I'm always looking at their individual qualities, their uniqueness, and their gifts, and how I can step into a role that better understands and supports them as a mother. So without further ado, let's dive into the magic. Today, we're diving into more astrology, but this time we're doing it with a different bend. We're going to talk a little bit more about looking at your child's natal chart and also your own natal chart and looking at kind of how they overlap, but really using this as a tool to better understand your child's soul blueprint and your own and how they overlap and how you might better work together. But before we do that, Terry, you have such a beautiful story about how you got into astrology and the relationship with your daughter. And I would love for you to share that with our audience.
Yeah, I would love to. It's my favorite story to tell. So my son, who was 3.5, was at a Waldorf school. We were at the Waldorf
Mm.
school, Princeton, and I'm an ex public school teacher. So I went to college for teaching, and I taught in the
Okay.
public school. And then I got pregnant, had a baby, and I knew that I wanted to stay home. And I also knew that being intimately connected to the public school, that it was fine. I was in that system, but I wanted something different for.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And we happened to live right down the street from a Waldorf school, and so that's where he went. And I loved it. I loved the idea of um, honoring the incarnating soul, giving them space to develop on their own timetable
Yes.
that's unique to them, and just the honoring of being a human on the earth
Hmm.
and how that showed up and all the beauty. I have a Libra moon. If we're talking astrology, I'm a Capricorn sun, I have a Libra moon and a Pisces rising. So
Amazing.
yeah.
I'm a Pisces rising too.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So you are sensitive as well. And so my intuition was like, just guiding me
Mhm.
to something different. And so that's what we ultimately chose for him.
Okay.
And I loved it. And when he was 3.5, he was at the Waldorf school and I had my daughter Eva. And from the beginning, I mean, I had a beautiful pregnancy and the birth was beautiful. But from that first breath, she slid down over the rainbow bridge. Life was
Mhm.
her. She was struggling to nurse, and I was pumping all the time. And I could feel that it was hard for her to be here. And, I'm going to fast forward. We tried a lot of different things to help her to feel like, yes, you can be here. You're in a body.
Mhm.
We tried everything mainstream, everything alternative, you name it, we did it. And she was really still struggling. And it was time for her to go to school. And she was in this like cute little preschool program. She was eligible to have an IEP. She had all of the early intervention because, she just wasn't developing typically, need
Mhm.
a lot from me, very attached to me. Um, and we had her in just the public school, and all of the teachers in that little tiny nursery special school sent their kids to the Waldorf school. So it was like Eva had this experience of a very Waldorfy experience in public school. And I loved it. I'm like, gosh, this is exactly what she needs. And then it was
Mhm.
time to graduate out of there. And I saw what was available for her in the system that we were in. And I stood there with our IEP person, and I just cried. I was like, this
Mhm.
is nothing. This is not, my intuition was telling me this is not for her. And
Yeah.
I wanted her to go to a Waldorf school. I knew she was a soul on a different path. I hadn't yet found astrology. I knew she was a soul on a different path. And I wanted to honor that. And I'm like, gosh, if there was only a Waldorf school for special needs children. And I found one. It was in Pennsylvania. So we moved so she could go to this Waldorf school for special needs children. It's called Camp Hill School. And I was having lunch with some other moms, delicious organic lunch made right there on the campus. And I was telling them my Eva story. My daughter's name is Eva, if I didn't mention that. She was 5 at this point when we moved.
Okay.
She started first grade there, and they said, "Oh my gosh, like, you've done, like, everything you" it was, like I said, very normal stuff we did, and then very crazy s not
Mhm.
to me, but crazy
Sure.
to, what might sound crazy to other people, just to support her, and, they said, "Have you ever had her natal chart read?" And I didn't even know, this was in 2010, what a
Okay.
natal chart was. Like, I knew I was a Capricorn. She was
Mhm.
clearly knew she was watery and very sensitive, but that's all that I knew. And so I
Yeah.
went to the local astrologer who was also a Waldorf teacher, and he never met Eva, and he was able to tell me so many things about her. It just blew my mind how he could describe her. And then he also told me, shared with me who she needed me to be, because we can see what the child needs from the mother in your natal chart.
Mhm.
And I thought, okay, all she needs for me to do is support her in this way. The natal chart, tells how that child, what the child needs, who they are,
Right.
need, what their gifts are. And and then I went on to have my son's natal chart read and then my own. And gosh, I was like way off my path. Because I was so, I just wanted to fix her and catch her
Yeah.
speed. And, her official diagnosis, she's 20 now. Her official diagnosis is cerebral palsy, but
Mhm.
I still see her as a very sensitive soul on a different kind of journey. Rudolf Steiner, who created the Waldorf schools, also believed that it's a very special incarnation when you choose to show up
Mm.
on the earth very differently, as Eva,
Yeah.
all of her friends at school are here. So, yeah, and I became obsessed with studying astrology. I have a lot of Scorpio in my chart, even though it's
Mm.
amazing.
Mhm.
A
Me
lot of
too, actually. Me too. Yeah.
sit up here, but so I became obsessed and I just went full on in, like, everything I could get my hands on. I took
Yeah.
classes locally, and then, I was working with, parents that special needs parents. I was coaching them, and I would bring in astrology, and they loved it. They just wanted more, more, more.
Mhm.
Wasn't until I met an astrologer named Deborah Silverman, where she said, like, she can put all the pieces together, and she had this, method for actually doing a reading. Like, I knew a lot of
Mhm.
astrology, but I wasn't able to put it together in a way that was simple and made sense for people. And then I found her, and then I started teaching for her, and now I teach for myself, and my focus really is on how to support your kids, how to parent your kids well according to the way they are, because everyone
Mhm.
is very unique. We all have a very unique soul lesson plan. And this natal chart, the picture of the sky when you were born, is your soul's intentions. When you take
Mhm.
this breath, your rising sign is set and all the planets land in a place in your chart. So it's focusing on parenting your kid, but also parenting yourself as shown in your own natal chart. And then I also bring in the nervous system, working with the nervous system, internal family systems method of psychotherapy. I'm trained in the polyvagal theory of the nervous system. So I like put all of that. I'm also was an attachment parenting educator through La Leche
Okay.
League when my son was little. And I learned a ton from Rudolf Steiner at the Waldorf school. So he was an astrologer. I don't know if
He
you know.
was. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I bring in anthroposophy to the work that I do, and yeah, I love to and I'm a Moony astrologer. I run an astrology community. We work with the moon every single day because the moon is when our moon years, according to Steiner, is those first 7 years, and
Yeah.
that's why in the Waldorf world, the first 7 years are a sacred time, and that's
Mhm.
nervous system is developing. So whenever I teach about the nervous system, I'm really
Okay.
talking about those formative moon years. And, they're secret. I mean, they're
Yeah.
protected. No,
Yeah.
they kids live in a little bubble, ideally, in
Okay.
those years. That's what we need. But I could keep going on and on. So
I know, I kinda just don't wanna stop you, to be honest. I mean, I have so many questions, I have so many things I wanna explore. I will just say I love Deborah Silverman, I think she's wonderful.
yeah,
Um,
you too.
and so I'm so glad that you kinda have studied kind of a little bit under her because I think she has some really great gifts. And I also love the Waldorf connection. I didn't realize you were that deep into Waldorf, but I absolutely love Waldorf. I'm getting deeper into it myself as we're using it to educate our children at home. And I think that 7-year cycle, I love that you said that because before I really understood that the 7-year cycle was something profound, I had that ping, and maybe this is what we're talking about with the Pisces rising. I had that ping as well with my son turned 7 last summer, and I thought, "We need to, like, memorialize this. This is big. This is like Saturn is coming into your chart at this moment, and this is huge for you." And I wanted to do something that pushed him, but in a way that he was excited about, not something that I had just come up with. So we actually took him to Mexico and we went diving with whale sharks. And mind you, when I booked this trip, he didn't know how to swim. He'd never been in the open ocean and he'd never even had a mask or like a snorkel on his face. I was just trusting in the process because it came to me and I was like, let's do it. Um,
His Saturn's in Pisces. Of course you picked to go on an ocean
yeah.
adventure.
Yeah.
Course. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
learning.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
he's learning the lessons are around the oceanic, the sensitivity that he is in this life.
Mhm. Yes,
I love that.
exactly. Oh, that's so cool. Yes, I love that, and I hadn't not heard about the nervous system being so is it's fully developing, like, it comes into its full expression in that first 7 years?
So in the first 7 years, we're very moony, we're absorbent, we absorb everything, and
Yeah.
we're figuring out like, we have this biological imperative to stay connected to our caregivers.
Mhm.
So we're very open. We're open to everything that goes on in those 7 years, and our
Yeah.
nervous system is learning intensely how to keep us safe. The moon is just needs safety, and so the moon years, it's like the majority of our nervous system, it's not like we can't have experiences that are impactful and kind of still live within us
Mm.
after age 7, but in utero and also, when they're in the womb, in that
Yeah.
water, and it's a very watery first 7 years, and then, yeah, Saturn comes in and is like, "Hello, we're in the real world. It's time for moving." And there's that every 7-year cycle
Mhm.
of Saturn. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh, so beautiful.
And I wouldn't say that Steiner was saying that the nervous system and the moon are connected, but it's like when you learn about the nervous system, as I said, I'm trained in the polyvagal theory.
Yeah.
It's, it's our threat. It's what protects us, and
Mhm.
we would say that's when a lot of our protectors came on board to keep us
Mhm.
safe, to kind of figure out what we had to do in order to maintain that connection, even if it's to sacrifice who we are and put that in a little closet and lock it up and not do that. As long as I can stay connected to my moon, which is mother,
Yeah.
and sun, which is my father, the masculine energy in my life,
Right.
then I'm safe, and so
Mhm.
we will kind of like mold ourselves into who we need to be in the eyes
Mm.
to get love from our parents.
Right.
That's why if I can get parents, with sitting with me and their child's natal chart, um, and understanding who they are, and where their buttons get pushed because,
Mhm.
it's when we are not okay with, our fiery child or our very emotional child, it means that when we were young, our fire wasn't honored, our water wasn't held. So when we see it out there, we're like, "Oh no, don't do that. Please don't." We don't know we're doing it, but it's in our body. Our body just reacts.
Mhm.
Our nervous system doesn't think, it just acts, it keeps
Correct.
it safe. And that's the moon, that's the lunar realm.
Ah, that's so interesting. Okay, so that's what you mean when you talk a lot about like the first step is almost reparenting yourself. So it's going back to those times and understanding where my nervous system is maybe being triggered by actions or feelings or emotions from my child.
Yeah, I teach in something called parenting astrology school, and we always do mom first because we can't parent our kids the way, it doesn't, we can, but it is better. We can parent our kids without knowing our
Sure.
natal chart. Obviously, I did for a long time before I had that astrology reading. But once you put you first and realize that everything about your kid there that activates you, that there's something in the emotional waters that feel not safe about what they're doing is actually not about them, it's about you. And
Yes.
it's like, oh right, I wasn't really allowed to speak up. Like was one of those kids that had to be like seen, not heard. Is that it? Yeah.
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 So
And
that
that makes so much sense. I love that. How do you guide parents? Like if you have, let's say a parent has a very emotional child and that is triggering for you as a parent because you don't know what to do with those with their emotions. Like are you giving guidance to them to say, "Hey, here's how you can kind of regulate your nervous system to help?" Because I find so often there's a lot of talk about people wanting to change and knowing it's a trigger, but not a lot of tools in the toolkits for parents to reparent themselves.
Yeah. And when you talk about reparenting, it's understanding your chart because when we can name what's going on, then our body starts to calm down. It's like
Mm,
sense. It's much more efficient to work with the body first, and then the mind
okay.
kind of automatically changes because the state of our nervous system determines the story that our mind is telling ourselves.
Uh-huh.
Um, but it really is most effective to work with your own parts first
Mhm.
because they're just being their beautiful, shining self. They're just
Right.
expressing and being exactly who they are. We all had that opportunity. Whether it was allowed or not, that's another question.
Right.
Depends when we were born. It depends on the consciousness level of our parents. And, it also depends on how old our parents were when they had us. Like, because
Yeah.
we know the brain isn't, the prefrontal cortex is not formed until age 25.
Yeah.
And, i- many of us come from very young parents. I mean, I was born in the 70s. My parents were young. They were
Yeah.
still forming themselves. And here they are, here I show up, And so, but yeah, it is really, we can't have, it's not, you have to start here. And then we start with
Mhm.
the autonomic nervous system, which is just always working in our favor to keep us safe. It doesn't
Yeah.
realize we may now be 40 and we don't need that protection anymore, but
Mhm.
still going to do it until we bring consciousness, which is our sun, to the lunar realm, which is our body, our autonomic
Mm.
reactions. Yeah. So I work a lot with the sun and the moon cycle, the sun and the moon
Mhm.
dance. There's a lot of reparenting we do every day in my astrology community. But yeah,
So interesting. Okay, I think that that makes sense. And what do you so let's say, okay, I know like for me, I know my chart. I know a lot of my friends and listeners of the podcast, they know their sun, their moon, their rising. But how does it different? Like if I just pull up my kid's chart, I can figure out all three of those things as well. But is that really what I need to be looking at? Or is there something else that you look at in a child's chart to help explain things? What are the where are the spots that you go immediately in a child's chart to better understand them?
that's a good question. I like that question. So, we really have, when we take our first breath, there's our rising sign, and that's whatever sign was on the horizon line
Mhm.
when we were born. That's our rising. And we really have our rising sign, especially, it's the horizontal line. We have the ascendant, then we have the place of the setting sun, that line that goes right across the
Yeah.
chart. We have our rising sign when we're really young and we're really able to express it. And then it becomes stuff happens right down here in the earth. As we are more upright, we tend to lose the essence of our rising sign. It always is part of us, but it's part of us that we can resist. We don't really like. I was extremely sensitive as a
Mm.
child. Didn't like it. Like I didn't want to be that sensitive. I just wanted to
Yeah.
be normal. Pisces,
Yeah.
they feel everything.
Mhm.
I always knew what was going on inside of people, even when I didn't want to know.
Yes, exactly.
Especially if you
Uh,
have a lot of Scorpio in your chart. It's like
uh,
we always knew all the things,
exactly.
which could be a lot for a child. Like we just want to
Yeah.
play,
Mhm.
anyway. So we really have our rising sign. So that's an important, very important in childhood. And then the moon. The moon is not just our first 7 years; it's our childhood. It's our childhood
Mm.
experience. It's what we need. It's the flavor of our emotions. It's very sensitive. We bring
Okay.
it in from other lifetimes. Like our moon is our mother, but it's also us in the utero, in the waters of the womb.
Okay.
Um, and our sun is something that we kind of journey towards. Steiner talked a lot about, Steiner, I really follow his 0 to 7 is lunar, moon,
Mhm.
7 to 14, Mercury, 14 to 21, Venus, and it isn't until 21, which is
Mhm.
the third Saturn cycle, that we start to get connected to our unique light and who we are.
Okay.
Saying like we're not our son and like you have a Leo kid and they're age 9, you're like, they're such a Leo.
Mhm.
Refine that Leo expression. They're very fiery, so I look at it more as your child's sun sign is really elemental. And then
Okay.
every birthday, every solar return, it gets a little bit more refined. The Leo shows up a little bit more. Like I was just a serious kid, but I
Okay.
wasn't like, I hated school. Like I didn't work hard at school. I'm a Capricorn. I work hard, but the Capricorn refinement came, as especially, in that 20,
Ah.
and then
Mhm.
we have our Mars years and our Jupiter years and our Saturn years. So I'm really focusing on the personal planets
Okay.
and the slower moving outer planets that are talking to the sun and moon because they're going to
Mhm.
flavor our childhood, but also the relationship we have with our caregivers. We're it's like when I'll just give you like a little sample. Like
Sure.
if we have, um, somebody
Mhm.
that's a Cancer moon, they're paying close attention to. It's like they have little antennas. Like I'm learning Cancer from you, nurturing caregiver. Whoever is that nurturing at home caregiver, it's usually the mom, it's not
Yep.
always that way, but they're really paying attention to that, and they're noticing
Mm.
the high road and the low road. They're learning it's their chart. I don't like, I don't when I'm doing a reading for a parent, I don't need the parent's chart because all that
Right.
matters is the perception of that parent, which I can see in the child's natal chart. It almost can get a little bit like when I bring in the parent's chart, then the reading starts to be about them. I would love
Mhm.
to do this is my favorite way. I
Okay.
really teach a lot now. I don't do readings as much
Sure.
anymore because I'm just busy teaching a lot of the times, but I love working with the parents first, having a session all for them. And
Mhm.
then the next session is about their child. And
Yeah.
I'll still remember that parent, but in the ideal world, we would all do our chart. So in the ideal world, I usually have a natal chart right around me, but your kid would do this. Like, can you
Mhm.
include them in this, even though it may not be you, or you may, you know, again, it all goes back to if it wasn't allowed for you, you carry that within you. And then it becomes like, I don't want my child, that doesn't feel safe when I see my child do it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's difficult, right? Because I think a lot of at least a lot of parents are, I think at least now, aware of that, right? I still think we're developing the tools to say, "Okay, great. I can feel unsafe in this moment because you're having a big emotional explosion. I'm figuring out what I need to do for myself in that particular moment to do it." And I do think tools like astrology come back because then I assume the parent could say, "All right, well, I can look at my moon and know that I have a Capricorn moon, and what I need to feel in this moment is perhaps a bit of control, control over my own self and the way that I react, right, versus something else." But it's difficult. This is difficult work, right? I mean, this is not easy by any stretch. And I think that that's one of the reasons that I love astrology so much is it helps at least someone like me with the way that my attitude and my mind works. It allows me the ability to understand why my kids are maybe like this when I am definitely not this, right? I am a lot of earth and
Hmm.
my kids are fire and water and air. And so it's like, why can you not just sit down and do this? I don't understand. It's like, oh, it's because you literally have to move. This
Yeah.
is how, your mind works. This is how your energy works. This is how you are. This is who you are.
Yeah.
Um, so it's a great insight into all of that. But I think, for little kids, it sounds like moon, sun, rising. As they get a little bit older, the Mercury comes in.
Well, the
Um,
sun, the element, we'll see the element. It's either
the
fire
sun
or
and the element.
water.
Hmm.
They'll
Okay.
develop that. They'll move towards that. Yeah, Mercury is really important. That's the kind of words that your child needs to hear from you.
Okay.
Um, of course, the flavor of their communication and how their mind works.
Uh huh.
Yeah, you're right. Even if when I sit with parents, if they only just understand their kid here,
Hmm.
that is a huge gift to their kid, right? When I
Yeah.
didn't need, for Eva, it was just like, oh, she's supposed to be this sensitive.
Hmm.
Yeah, she's incredibly aware, even though she's nonverbal. Like, all the pieces made sense. And it was like, I can trust this. I can take my hands off that. I need to control everything. I need to fix everything. I would need to make it better. Always be striving,
Mhm.
working, that was my own stuff. But yeah, if you can just do that, and I do that, like if a parent books a reading for their kid. And then in parenting astrology school, we really look at the parents' chart, reparenting, taking care of them, looking at finding their childhood in their natal chart,
Mhm.
working with the child's chart, understanding that parenting astrology school is for people that you don't even need to really know astrology because they teach you astrology in there. And
Yeah.
then it is like working with your own nervous system and also, honoring your kids' developing nervous system. Like, right, we want to like do that service as well because it's a highly, especially now with the astrology, it's like everything is fast changing
Oh my gosh, yes.
and it's only going to get faster when these outer planets, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, well, Pluto is in Aquarius for
Sure.
good, but Saturn, they're going to move back into fire and air signs. And it's like
Mhm.
change is the name of the game.
It
And
is.
stimulation is the name of the game. So it's like, how can they find regulation within themselves? Well, the first thing is the co-regulation with their base. So is mom regulated? Because if mom is,
Mhm.
then they can tap into those waters. So we like dive into all the nuances in
Okay.
astrology school, but it's just super helpful to understand
Yeah.
its natal chart.
That makes perfect sense. And how is it with rising signs? Like you said, okay, so what you said earlier was you kind of can tap into that rising sign energy when you're younger, and then we sort of do we lose it? Do we gain it? Like I know different people have different perspectives. Some people say you don't really get into your rising sign until, more later in life. That's really when it sort of starts to evolve. What's your perspective?
Yeah, you rise to it for sure and
Mhm.
becomes more comfortable as you move through your years. But like if you would take your three kids,
Mhm.
think about their rising sign, think about them
Mhm.
when they were horizontal before they
Yep.
pulled themselves up.
Mhm.
You felt that essence, hands down. It's like, the Leo rising is like attracting attention even when she's
Mhm.
2 months old or he's 2 months old. The Pisces rising baby is incredible. It's like an angel, like just like,
Mhm.
oh, the Virgo rising is like really tuned in even when they're like 3 months old, but they
Yes.
have it. And it's not, they just, it goes away and we're rising to the highest expression of it. And I do believe that we can kind of be like, I'm a rising sign. Can I pick a different one next time around? Like, I don't really like this. Insert your rising sign. Now, if you're,
Sure.
hey, I love my rising sign, like people out there that are listening, one, you might be a little older, and it may be an easier rising sign for you because of other things you have going on in your chart.
Right.
Depends like where your chart ruler is. And yeah,
Okay.
connect the dots a little with astrology.
Yes, that makes sense. Okay, and you just pointed on something. What is a chart ruler?
It's the planetary ruler of your rising sign. And
Ah,
yeah,
okay.
and so then you find, yours is well, you have two, you have Neptune and
And
Jupiter.
Jupiter.
Find what house those are in your chart.
Mhm.
And then, that's the chart ruler is wherever the chart ruler is in your chart. I think if you could simply for people that are listening, your
Yeah.
sun, moon, rising, those are all three parts of you.
Mhm.
Sometimes those parts get along and sometimes they fight. But then where your chart ruler is, that house, that's also going to be a really strong house. You're going to have a lot of like, things are going to happen in that
That
area
makes sense.
of life because you're going to develop yourself. Your rising sign is the path that you'll take to find who you are, and who you are always meant to be. So it's the rising sign and the sun have a really strong relationship, but
Okay.
we know more of who we are as every birthday we get a little bit more refined, right? So imagine at 45 how you know yourself more than at 25.
Yes.
And so, but the rising sign is like kind of the road that helps you to know who you are. So that's why it also can feel like, well, we don't, I'm not sure what you heard, but like we don't
Mhm.
come into it when until we're older. I mean, it's always there. It's just that,
Yeah. That's more my intuition is that it is always there. And that does make sense. So how do you parent like okay, understanding emotions and the moon go together really well. So likely how your child expresses emotions is
Yeah.
coming from their moon sign.
And what they need, how who
What
they
they
what they need, like, what's the kind of mama that they or nurturing caregiver that they need you to be.
Okay, so if your child shares the same moon sign as you,
It
is that just, like, super symbiotic?
well, it's not surprising because it's like we choose the
Mhm.
parents that we need in this incarnation for lessons that our ego can't understand. So,
Right.
it's almost like, let's say, what's your sun, moon, rising again?
My sun is Taurus, my moon is Capricorn, my rising is Pisces.
Okay, so you can just say that, simply you've come in down here to Earth school
Mhm,
with a Capricorn, Taurus, and Pisces in your curriculum, like in your lesson
mhm.
plan. You're really here to do a lot in those archetypes and to experience the highest, most skilled expression and the lower, not so skilled expression, more reactive of
Yeah,
those. And then it makes sense that you would choose parents that help you with that curriculum. So it could
mm,
be that, somebody, your mom or dad, have a strong Saturn in their chart,
mm.
or maybe their moon is a Capricorn, or their rising, or Saturn's,
Yeah,
conjunct an angle. So we choose parents that help us, on our soul's journey. So that makes I see that a lot, like the theme,
okay.
like
So interesting.
my moon is my dad's
Yeah.
son, that kind of thing.
Yes,
And
yes.
when there's an ease there when you
Mhm.
kind of the moon is like where we come from. When you come from the same place as your child, you're like, yeah, I kind of get it. Like
Yeah.
yeah, there's ease there.
Mhm, mhm. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Okay, so back to what I was saying was moon is emotions, sun is, like, your personality more, right?
Yeah,
Is that right? Okay.
you are your son. It's who you are.
By your son. And your rising is who you're here to be. So as parent excuse me, as parents, what I take from that immediately, you tell me if this is correct or not, is I will use the moon to understand how my children are expressing emotions and what their emotional needs are. I will use their sun to understand kind of who they are personality wise, like why they might be a little fiery or like Leo, all about me and interesting and, want to be the center of attention. Or when I will use their rising sign to understand that I'll see like glimmers of this potentially.
Yeah, I mean, so I would just say the moon is also the way they need to be nurtured and cared for
Okay.
and loved,
Got it.
if you could
Mothered.
think of it that way. The
Okay.
sun, I would just keep it to the element. Like if your
Okay.
has a Taurus sun, just be like, yeah, they're grounded, they're practical, they're earthy, and they'll find their way to that. We find
Mm,
it's the hero's journey the journey we take to our unique expression in this lifetime. So there's if you can just be like, yeah, you want to know the plan, that makes sense. Or it seems like you need to go outside, my fire child. Let's go. Let me open the door for you.
yeah.
Just holding that. And then the rising sign is also the body. So it's, you know, you can think of it like it's what feels good to their body. So if you have you could think of it like elements. If you have a water rising child, get them in water.
Hmm.
Earth, really like the massage, the touch, the cuddles, the fire, get them moving. Um, but it is a part of them. Like if you're new to astrology, you simply could think, you know, yeah, one part of my kid is this, and another part, like what I was teaching for Deborah earlier today, and it's like,
Hmm.
let's say you're like for you, it's like
Yeah.
Earth, a
Hmm.
very practical part, and then there's also a very sensitive part, and so
Hmm.
just keep that in mind and keep it really simple. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's also interesting, isn't it? And it's funny because my two of my sons, they really get under each other's skin. And what I always tell them is, "Hey, buddy, you're fire and he's air. What happens when air and fire get together? Explosions."
Yeah.
Right? Big explosion. So, like, when you're amping each other up, you're just making this fire energy bigger and bigger and bigger. So, you got
Yeah.
to calm down. And my daughter is water. I'm like, you guys can't ruffle her feathers to save your life because she's putting that fire out, you know? So, we talk about it that way. I don't know if that's the correct way, but it does seem to work for
Oh
us.
my gosh, totally. Absolutely. And to give them that awareness is such
Hmm.
a gift. Like
Yeah.
self-aware. I mean, we're moving towards a greater consciousness of ourselves and how we show up in the world. And everybody gets to show up the way they're uniquely wired. I mean, that's such a big lesson right now for us. Like,
Yeah.
we feel the polarization. We feel like no
Hmm.
one's way is right. It's just a different
Yeah.
way of, and so accepting that everyone's different and they have their own past and their own experiences is huge for where we're going now as a consciousness. You could say
Yeah,
that way.
I agree. Much easier said than done, I would say, for most folks, including myself. But yeah, that does make sense. And I know you talk a lot about elemental parenting too. Um, and just knowing like, knowing the element that the sun is excuse me, knowing the element that's associated with the sun in your child is important. But what about the elements in the moon and the rising? Are those equally as important, or do those develop at a different
Yeah.
stage?
I mean, the sun is the gravitational pull of our whole solar system. So
Hmm.
that element of the sun is going to be really strong. I mean, the moon, yes, you can use the element, but feel free to really personalize that moon because it's, it's like, ooh, just love me the right. I just need, it's like a love language, but like very specific. So, a Scorpio moon baby, even though
Hmm.
Scorpio and Pisces are both water, there's like different flavors to that. Scorpio is intense.
Hmm.
Pisces is, um, very, very sensitive. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I would like if you could know a lot about your kid's moon sign, that's such a
Yeah,
gift to them because that's also how they need to be loved and nurtured and what they're watching in you because they're learning how to do their moon sign by the mom, the
by the mom.
primary nurturing caregiver,
Yeah.
the parent on the inside, the parent kind of like on the home front. The son is the parent that goes out there and that I will journey to meet and to have more of a connection with. Um, I saw there's a quote, there's an astrology quote. I don't know who said it, but it's like, we love ourselves as our mother loved us,
Hmm.
and we respect ourselves as our father or the masculine, the parent on the outside, the parent that went out there and, you know, brought home the food or
Hmm.
check or whatever. It's the roles are different now, but we still
Yeah.
use the archetypes. We respect ourselves like as our father did.
Yes. Okay. Moon being mother, sun being father, traditionally.
Yeah, the yin parent, the yang parent. Yeah.
Hmm.
The lines can get a little blurry because both parents can be working. It just but it's in our art, it's in our consciousness that moon is mother and sun is father. So we tend to like go with those and they work. They still work.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, that makes sense. And it could work too. I mean, if you have a father who's potentially more of a feminine energy and a mother who leans a little bit more masculine, I
yeah.
would assume just energetically you could flip those in a way too. Or is it just tied because you're saying, hey, the mother is the one that brings you into the world. She is the portal, and therefore her womb is what's setting the tone and the frequency of your initial steps into this world.
Yeah. I mean, it's like there could be an Aries moon,
Hmm.
Cancer sun, and it's going to be like, yeah, my mom's fiery. Like, you don't mess with her. And, but dad is just like sweet. And
Yeah.
Cancer's still a strong sign. It's a cardinal sign. But,
Sure.
dad is a little bit more, dad did the cooking, it can show up that
Hmm.
way. Mom was too busy. She didn't have time, burnt everything. You literally see it so much. And, to Steiner's point, we have Mother Moon and Father Sun. There-
Hmm.
those they live in our consciousness. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's really beautiful. Okay. So, is there anything else that you always tell parents to look at? I feel like we've covered a lot of ground, but like outside of the big three when kids are little, because I think that's the time when it's maybe well, I can't speak to it because I only have, an 8-year-old. That's my max age limit at the moment. But I feel like a lot of questions and stuff come up at this particular juncture. So is there anything else you would tell parents of younger kids when they're starting to open up their chart to look out for?
I mean, one of my favorite things, because I also teach other astrologers how to
Okay.
read children's charts and how to think about that
Hmm.
in the context of planetary development, attachment parenting, how the brain works.
Yeah.
Um, I like to ask parents, tell me what's hard about being this kid's mom. And
Mm,
that's the thing. And that's it's
okay.
because I also have a coaching background. So it's like whatever that is, like sometimes they're like, tell me how to get my kid to stop doing this thing that's like really uncomfortable for me. So I'd
Yeah.
like to know what that is because I want them to know that's actually a beautiful part of who they are. We can usually see it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, well, that makes sense because they have Mars right next to their son. So they are going to be like, hey, I'm going to put you in your place, even though you're, 30 years older than me, because then we work with, okay, where was that not allowed to show up in your childhood? And
Hmm.
find it in their chart, but I don't even need to find it in their chart. It's just like, well, yeah, you just fell in line and you did what you had to do.
Yeah.
Like I didn't
And you
have
did.
say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'd like them to really get that. I want you to have your kid have a say. Like this child has Mars next to his sun. He is fiery. He's not,
Hmm.
there's a leadership in him. And I'm not saying that you let your kid do whatever you want. I mean, one of my favorite books is The Soul of Discipline by Kim John Payne, which
Okay.
talks about it. He doesn't call it Saturn cycles, but like the first 7 to 9 years, you are the governor. And then, your way, you need to hold a strong container. It's like a Saturn
Hmm.
conversation. And then, the next 7 years or around that is, the gardener where it's you give them a little bit more freedom, but you're still holding a strong container. And then it's like the guide where it's like, tell me your plans. I'm still the so it's like I don't want it to be like, well, the kid can just be whoever they are. And the parents are
Right.
like, okay, well, that's what their chart says. They're freaking running the household, but I don't know what else I'm supposed, it's not like that. So it
Yeah.
is that, you still need to
Yeah.
be the adult. The problem
Hmm.
is when we're triggered and when our nervous system is triggered, we get really young. We're now 8 or we're 15,
Hmm.
and that doesn't feel safe to our kids, right? They need the adult to show up. They need the conscious, aware adult. Like I'm so activated right now about what my child is doing, but I know that's about me. I'm going to
Right.
hold a space for them to be able to do whatever they need to do, have their experience. And, it's like the parent can even lose their shit as long as
Hmm.
back to make that repair and take
Yes.
responsibility and
Yes.
like, actually, that was about me. And you were just doing your sweet thing that you do. And, and I wasn't, you don't have to get into all the technicalities, but
Exactly. But I think that's important because that's relationship repair. That's teaching how to communicate and to build relationships with people outside in your own life. And also you have to have some grace for yourself as a parent. My goodness. Like
yeah,
we are not perfect.
yeah.
And it's like, even though we'd love to be, like, I lose my mind many times a week, if not daily. Do you know what I mean? Like, kids are here to push us and trigger us, and they are our ultimate teachers. And that is why I love this stuff so much because you can really dig in and it will show you, hey, this is an issue for you. Here's likely why it was, and here's here's maybe what's triggering you about this particular child. But remember, it's a soul contract, is my belief. Like we have come in to do the learning together, right? Like they're not yes, I have a 3-year-old, and no, we're not on like the equal playing field in terms of life earth experience, but he is his own person. He has his own gifts, and I don't talk down to my children.
Mm,
I treat them as respected individuals in the household. I am the governor, as you mentioned, and it is ultimately my decision, but like we can talk about it,
yeah.
right? I'm not even sure where I was going with this, but I just think it's so important for parents to have that freedom to mess up
Yeah.
and to
Because
course correct.
like when there's repair,
Yeah.
there's the intimacy is and the
Hmm.
trust. That's like
Yeah.
where that comes in. And, we don't have that in our tissues. Like, I mean, I grew up in the
Yeah.
70s, as I said, it's like there was no repair ever. So I didn't, we don't have that
Yeah.
within us, but that is the way, to build intimacy and trust and connection with your child. You're
Yeah.
optimist.
Yes.
the repair can be really sweet. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
and we're
exactly.
yeah, that reparenting yourself is giving yourself grace and, like, being like, "Yeah, I totally screwed up, and I'm adult enough to realize that they don't need to care for me. They don't need to take care of my unprocessed emotional content that pops up when I
Right.
don't like it to, but it does because it's asking to be seen and heard and understood, like, it needs parenting, but I am the adult, and I will take responsibility for that."
Yes. Ugh, my Capricorn moon loves that. Take responsibility. Yes, that is what we are here to do. That's so brilliant. Okay, I have wanted to take your parenting course for like ever.
Mhm.
And now I'm like, okay, I really have to do this. I really want to dig in a little bit deeper because as much as like I feel like I understand about astrology, it is still all pretty superficial and I crave the depth of understanding more. Um because I do believe that like parenting is the ultimate responsibility and it's the job that is the most important to me and I think to most people and you want to do it right. Do you want to do your best, right? And it's not about control. I know I have to tell myself this, but it is about like hey, how can I show up the best for my kids? Right. And knowing already that at a baseline, I am good enough. Right. But I always think there's room for improvement. And if I want my kids to constantly grow and expand and learn, I have to do that myself. And that's when I find the deepest connection sometimes with my kids in our homeschooling is when I'm out and learning about stuff. And then we talk about it. My kids know their sun, they know their rising, they know their moon. And we talk about things and we talk, like I said earlier, it's like, well, you're fire. So that's why that's happening. And oh, isn't it funny that daddy's moon is the same as, the baby's son and look at all the similarities there are between you guys, right? Like we make it a fun game and we do really interesting things, but I think it's a peek behind the curtain for them too to also give themselves permission to be like, I'm different and this is great. This is actually my superpower. My little Cancerian daughter who is a Cancer sun and a Cancer moon. I'm
Oh,
like, your emotions are your superpower, sister. Like, don't hide behind them, right?
yeah.
These are a gift, right? And we can work through how to like feel them, but don't shut this down. You need this. You want this. This is so good for you. So yeah, knowing all that, so interesting. I just want to dive so much deeper. Oh my goodness, this is so great. Okay, so if someone is saying, "Great, Tara is amazing," which yes, obviously we know this. Um, where do you recommend they go? I know you have a lot of great sort of like free resources on your site, which I always tell people to go and do those first. You get a feel for your flavor, but they can do astrology parenting courses. Would that be
Yeah, like,
the
Parent
best?
Astrology School is a 12-week course.
12 week. Okay.
It will open the doors in January.
Okay. Amazing.
I have an astrology community, which really just keeps us connected on the daily to what's happening up there.
Okay.
Because one where like today's an Aries moon, everybody can be it's Virgo season, everybody can be a little bitey and like want to be right today. The moon plays in the background. The moon plays in the background of the
Always.
chart as well. So joining, I have a monthly community. So joining that can once you can get connected to that sky, then you can
Okay.
be more connected to your own personal, your natal sky. They both work together. And then I just teach different classes. I mean, I teach classes for astrologers, but also parents that don't know any astrology. So
Yeah.
if you
So
go
no matter where you're at in your journey, you can take this course and
parenting
you're
astrology,
not going to feel lost. You're not going to feel lost.
I
Okay.
wrote it for people that don't know astrology, but just are curious, like
Yeah.
want to understand how all these things I can combine them and
I love that.
just honor my past, your own journey as a parent,
Yeah.
and then also your child's journey. So
Yes. Oh my gosh, and I wanna say, like, I wanna get a group of girlfriends, like a study group almost together and do your class, your parenting class. I think that would be so much fun. Oh my gosh. I feel like people need to do this. Okay, all my homies that are listening, let's get together and do this. This will be so
yeah,
fun.
that would be great.
I love that. Okay, and people can connect with you on Instagram at Luminary Parenting, correct?
Yeah, and my website, you could get on I mean, if you're on my email list, then you know when the offerings are. Social media can get busy. I don't understand
It does.
Instagram's
But
algorithm.
your memes are so good. I think people need to follow you just for the memes. I feel like you could understand more about astrology from looking at your memes daily than I think you could about reading a book sometimes. It's just the
That's
visual effect is so good.
so entertaining. I agree. I can't take credit for those memes. I say, yes, I like them, but I'm not the creator of them. That
Well,
is
it's okay. It's supporting the mission, and the mission is education, right? So
right.
you and your team are doing a great job.
And it's to, I want people to understand that connection between, oh, you can use parenting. Wait, you can use astrology in your parenting?
Yes.
Because there's so many parents walking the planet. So yeah, I have a small team and that's my social media person, Shelly. She's super creative. But yeah,
Right. Shout out Shelly.
people in, that's like,
Yes.
oh, yeah, I have a fiery
Yes.
kid. Oh my God, that's what they do. That's exactly what they do.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. It just helps, and it's a funny little sense. Everyone needs a little laugh during the day too, especially parents,
totally.
right? So,
Especially somebody that's a double earth.
yes. Oh my gosh, yeah. It can be kind of serious. So, too funny.
Yeah.
Well, Tara, thank you so much for the work that you do in the world. I think it's a beautiful gift that you're giving to parents. And I hope that people will go and follow you and check out more of your courses and dive deeper into your own magic. Thank you so much for this conversation. It really was beautiful.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah. Thanks.
Yay. I'm going to hit stop now. And then